What if Rimuru's Omni Versal Journey? By JM_1001. What if the supreme deity Rimuru visited different universes? Rimuru has become Veldanava's successor, but unlike Veldanava, Rimuru, being bored, decides to go on an adventure to interact with other universes, becoming more powerful and having fun as he does so. Chapter 17, God versus God. As Rimuru was traveling through dimensions, crossing through universes, he asked Seal, "So, my queen, where are we going now?" Seal replied, "Our next destination is..." Suddenly, as Seal was talking, Rimuru felt himself being pulled into a separate realm. Seal announced, "Master, we are being pulled into an isolated realm by an unknown being. Should I cancel this?" Rimuru mused, Interesting. No, let it be, Seal. I'm curious as to who would pull me into an isolated realm." Seal did as Rimuru asked and let it happen, with Rimuru eventually being sucked into the realm in question, almost as if he was being pulled into a black hole. When Rimuru arrived in the realm, he looked around only to see a desolate, barren land, with the sky completely blackened by dark clouds and red lightning raging everywhere. Rimuru could only think to himself, this lightning. It feels familiar but different somehow. Seal noted, "Master is right. I have analyzed this lightning, and it is comparable to Master's black lightning, but it uses an unknown form of matter. Further analysis is needed." "All right, continue to analyze this lightning, Seal, while I find the person who brought us here," Rimuru said. Using his godly senses, Rimuru detected a being quite far from them at the center of the realm. Without wasting any time, Rimuru teleported to the being's location. When he arrived, he was met with the sight of a large, demon-like being with two large horns on his head, sitting on a massive throne made of stone. The being was emitting red lightning as if it were part of his very existence. Seeing Rimuru, the being started to speak in a menacing, demonic tone. "You have finally come," Rimuru countered. "You must be the individual who pulled me here. Who are you, and what do you want?" The being answered, "Indeed, I am the one who called you here. I am Agony, the god of destruction." "The god of destruction, huh?" Rimuru mused. "I'm surprised there's a god I don't know of." Agony sneered. "Yes, well, that would be your predecessor's fault." "Ah, so you knew Lord Veldanava," Rimuru said. Agony hissed, "Yes, I did. And now that you're here, I can finally achieve my goal." "And what would that be?" Rimuru asked. Agony growled, "Revenge, of course." "Revenge?" Rimuru questioned. "Yes, revenge," Agony declared. "Millions of years ago, I was so close to destroying everything and becoming the one and only true god in the multiverse. I slaughtered all those who opposed me, but then I was beaten and sealed away here for all of eternity by Veldanava. But now that you're here, I can finally achieve my revenge. I will kill you and obtain the power to leave this prison, and then I will destroy everything Veldanava held sacred. Starting with you, then his family, then all of his creation. And when I'm done, I will become the one true god." Agony stood up, walked around to the back of his throne, and grabbed a massive axe that was emitting the same red lightning as him. He stood and faced Rimuru. Rimuru was deadly silent, looking down with a disheartened expression, until he began to speak in a deadpan tone. "You know, it takes quite a bit to make me angry." As Rimuru spoke, he began to release a portion of his aura. The pressure was so great that it shook the entire realm violently. Rimuru continued, "But hearing you say you're going to destroy everything I hold dear? Well, that just pisses me off to no avail. So, I think I'll destroy you." Rimuru pulled his sword out of his imaginary space and readied himself. Agony, however, laughed at Rimuru's words. "Destroy me? And how do you plan on doing that? Not even Veldanava could do that. He had to seal me away here because he feared my power." Rimuru suddenly disappeared from Agony's view and reappeared right next to him, sending a devastating kick to his face. The strike sent Agony flying and crashing through several mountains until he finally came to a halt, embedded deeply in a cliff face. Agony stood up, spitting dust. "I see. So that's your answer." Rimuru appeared in front of Agony's face again, sword in hand, and made a slash at Agony's throat. However, Agony saw it coming and blocked Rimuru's sword with his axe. He then grabbed Rimuru by the foot and threw him, sending him crashing through a massive cliffside, before summoning a massive red lightning strike that slammed Rimuru into the ground. Agony appeared on top of Rimuru, about to cleave Rimuru's face in half with his axe, but he was stopped when Rimuru activated Xeno. A massive streak of energy shot into Agony's chest, sending him flying up into the air before it exploded with the full force of a star. Agony was left hovering in the air, only slightly injured. Rimuru then appeared in front of Agony, and the two entered an intense clash of weapons, with each strike devastating the already barren land underneath them from the shockwaves alone. As the two continued their clash, Agony arrogantly announced, "Is this all you've got? This meager amount of power is nowhere near enough to kill me." He kicked Rimuru in the chest, sending him back a few meters. Rimuru replied, "I was about to say the same thing to you." Rimuru wrapped his fist and turned null, blitzed toward Agony at blinding speed, and delivered a devastating punch to his face, sending him crashing into the ground. Agony let out a TSK as he stood up. Rimuru appeared behind Agony, about to cut him in half from behind, but he was stopped when Agony activated his red lightning, sending Rimuru skidding on his back across the ground and crashing through boulders. It was then, however, that Rimuru heard Seal announce in his mind, "Master, the analysis of Agony's lightning attack is complete. The individual Agony possesses a unique energy called primordial energy. I believe he is the incarnation of this very energy, and is the holder of the primordial energy of destruction." Rimuru asked, "What's that mean, Seal? Does that mean he's like a primordial demon like Diablo?" Seal answered, "Similar, although unlike Diablo, he is much older. I believe when Veldanava created the omniverse and all the laws that govern it, the individual Agony was originally the law of storms. More specifically, he was the first thunderstorm, and after a while, he gained sentience." "Okay, I see now," Rimuru thought. "So he's basically the law of thunder gaining an ego. Well, now that your analysis is done, I can finally end him." While Rimuru and Seal were talking, 1000X thought acceleration had been activated. Now that they were finished, Rimuru deactivated it, only to see Agony in the air with his axe held above his head, trying to split Rimuru in half. Seeing this, Rimuru did a backflip out of the way. As Agony's axe made contact with the ground, red lightning shot out in all directions, causing dirt and debris to scatter. Agony pulled his axe out of the ground and rested it over his shoulder as he looked at Rimuru. "Is this the best you can do, successor? Giving up already?" Rimuru stayed silent for a moment before a smirk formed on his face. "You know, throughout this fight, you've been acting as if you're better than me simply because I'm not Veldanava. But there's one thing you've failed to account for." Agony sneered. "Oh? And what would that be, successor?" Rimuru declared, "I'm more powerful than Veldanava. And if you couldn't beat him, then you have no chance of beating me." Agony was angered by Rimuru's words and leapt at him, his axe aimed high and ready to strike. More powerful than Veldanava? What a joke! Agony thought furiously. "Veldanava, I'll make you sorry for ever picking this brat as your successor by killing him here and now." But as Agony was in the air, Rimuru put his sword in front of his face and uttered, "Bankai, void collapse." Upon Rimuru uttering those words, everything around Agony turned pitch black as he found himself in an endless abyss. Agony looked around, panicked, not knowing what was going on. He tried desperately to fire off the most powerful red lightning he could muster in all directions, but it was to no avail. His lightning simply disappeared from sight the further away it got. All of a sudden, he felt a pinch on his hand. When he inspected it, he noticed one of his fingers was missing. Seeing this, he got into a battle stance, looking around frantically. He then felt the same pinch on his foot and looked down to see his toes were missing. Agony, now terrified and enraged, yelled out, "What is this? What are you doing?" He then heard Rimuru's voice echo all around him. "You are returning to the void, just as all things should." Suddenly, the pinching sensation Agony was feeling became rapid and violent, with parts of his body disappearing one after another. Agony wailed out in anger and frustration as his hands, feet, thighs, waist, and torso were taken away from him, until there was nothing left but his head. All of a sudden, the endless void around Agony dispersed, and Rimuru was left standing in front of him with his hands behind his back. Agony gritted his teeth in anger, looking up at Rimuru. "I swear, successor, when I come back, I will destroy everything you hold dear before I kill you." Rimuru just looked at Agony with a deadpan expression. "You won't ever get that chance, Agony." Rimuru stuck his hand out and commanded, "Azathoth." In that moment, Azathoth enveloped Agony's head and devoured him, leaving not even a speck of him behind. Seal then announced to Rimuru, "Master, after analyzing the individual Agony, it is now possible for Master to use primordial magic." "Is that good, Seal?" Rimuru asked. "Yes, very much so," Seal replied. Further analysis has shown that primordial magic has the potential to bypass any barrier or resistance when used properly. That certainly is good. Alright, Seal, let's leave now." Rimuru then activated Azathoth again and devoured the entire realm, leaving absolutely nothing behind. Rimuru found himself back where they were originally before being sucked into that realm. Seal then activated the multidimensional teleportation, and the two continued on their journey. Chapter 18. The Isesuma Universe. Currently, in the country of Brunhild, the king of these lands, Mochizuki Tuya, was sitting in a courtyard with his fellow gods and his wives. Suddenly, Tuya and his fellow gods sensed a familiar presence. It was Shinasuk, also known as the World God. Shinasuk had teleported to Tuya's location in a hurry. When Tuya saw Shinasuk, he casually asked, "Hey, World God, what brings you here?" However, Shinasuk was extremely worried. "Tuya, this is bad. Our entire universe could be at stake." Shinasuk's words got the other gods worried, knowing that if the World God was saying this, it must be serious. Tuya asked in a worried tone, "What's the problem? How is our universe at stake?" Shinasuk replied, his voice trembling, "The Supreme One is coming here." This announcement made all the other gods stand up out of their chairs as they all said in unison, "The Supreme One is coming here?" Tuya was just confused. Who is this Supreme One? The other gods just looked at the ground, completely terrified at the mere mention of the name. Shinasuk was the only one able to answer Tuya. "Do you remember how I told you about the tier system we gods have?" Tuya nodded. "Yeah, I remember. First, there are low-tier gods, which is the bracket I'm in. Then there are mid-tier gods, which is the bracket all of you are in, with you, the World God, being at the apex and bordering on the next bracket, which is the high-tier bracket, reserved for only the most powerful of gods." "That's exactly right," Shinasuk said. "But the title of Supreme One is a being above all of us gods. The Supreme One is a being that created everything in existence and governs over it, including us gods." Tuya gasped. "So you're saying this Supreme One is the creator of everything? But why is it so bad that they're coming here?" Karen, the goddess of love, explained, "The Supreme One normally only comes to a universe when he feels he needs to correct a mistake, such as us gods interfering in the mortal world." "You mean he's coming to punish you all for simply being here?" Tuya asked. "Possibly," Karen replied. "Or because you're here." Tuya could only gulp at Karen's statement before asking, "But why would he do that? I thought it was fine for me to be here." Shinasuk warned, "Well, that will be for him to decide. But if the Supreme One ever wanted to, he could erase our very universe in the blink of an eye. So whatever you do, don't anger him under any circumstances." Tuya could only nod nervously. Moroha, the god of swords, then asked, "How long do we have until he gets here?" "He could be here at any moment," Shinasuk answered. "I sensed him cross over into our universe just a moment before I arrived here." As the gods were having their discussion, a portal opened right in the courtyard. The gods all trembled in fear, sensing exactly who it was that opened it. Footsteps could be heard from within the portal, and each step made the gods' fear grow greater and greater. Finally, Rimuru walked out from the portal with his hands behind his back, giving off the air of a truly supreme godly being. The gods all rushed toward Rimuru and kneeled in deep reverence. The World God said with a trembling voice, "Greetings, Supreme One. We are honored to be in your presence." Rimuru stayed silent as he stared down at the gods and analyzed them. He then greeted them back, saying, "Ah, World God, is it? Please, no need to bow. I only make those I deem unworthy do that, so please stand. That goes for all of you." Seeing this, Tuya and his wives approached the other gods and Rimuru. Tuya said, Hello, Supreme One. I am Mochizuki Tuya, the king of these lands and, just as of recently, a fellow god. Rimuru looked at Tuya before stating in a friendly tone, "Ah, another worlder. It's nice to see a fellow Japanese person." Rimuru's comment shocked the gods, and even more so Tuya. Tuya asked, "A fellow Japanese person? Does that mean you were Japanese as well?" Rimuru chuckled, "Ahaha. Once a very long time ago, I was just like you. As a human, I was killed and reincarnated as a slime monster. But after evolving a bunch of times, I eventually ended up being picked by Lord Veldanava, the creator of everything, as his successor. I joined the ranks of the gods, eventually surpassing my predecessor." Hearing Rimuru's story left Tuya and the gods completely amazed and shocked. Tuya began to laugh. "Ahaha, a slime monster, huh? That definitely wouldn't have been ideal. That must have been hard on you." Rimuru laughed along. "Ahaha. Yeah, it definitely was hard at first, but I got used to it and made some great friends and family along the way." "Well then, Supreme One," Tuya started. "Please, Rimuru is fine," Rimuru interrupted smoothly. "You all seem like good people, so please just call me by my name." "All right then, Rimuru. What brings you here?" Tuya asked. "Oh, I'm just traveling with my wife," Rimuru replied. "Traveling with your wife?" Tuya repeated. "Yeah," Rimuru said. Seal then opened a portal next to Rimuru and revealed herself to everyone. Rimuru introduced her, saying, "This is my wife, Seal Tempest, the goddess of knowledge and wisdom." This immediately caught Lean's attention. With her craving for knowledge, she instantly began to ask, "Lady Seal, please, I have so much I want to ask you." Tuya quickly bonked Lean on the head. "Aha, I'm sorry, Lady Seal. Lean here is a bit of a bookworm and can't help herself when it comes to knowledge." Seal smiled. "Aha, it is okay. I believe we will be staying in this universe for a little while, so I would be more than happy to answer her questions." Lean could barely contain her joy, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Seal. Tuya interjected, "Thank you, Lady Seal. Well, if that's the case, you two are more than welcome to stay here with us." "Thank you, Tuya," Rimuru said. "We would be more than happy to accept your offer." With the introductions done, Shinnosuke returned to his post, and Rimuru and Seal were shown around the castle by Tuya and given a room of their own. Later that night, Rimuru and Seal enjoyed a joyful evening with Tuya and his family. During the dinner, Rimuru learned that the other gods had essentially adopted Tuya into their family, while Lean hounded Seal with questions about everything on her mind, stemming from magic theory to universal mysteries. All in all, it was a pleasant first night. Chapter 19, Old Friends. The following morning, after a delightful night spent with Tuya and his family, Rimuru and Seal awoke in the luxurious room they had slept in. Rimuru turned to Seal. "You felt it too, didn't you?" Seal answered, "Certainly. After further analysis, it shows the dimensional barrier created by the gods is weakening in this world, and a species called the phrases are slowly seeping through." "Yes, I've sensed this too," Rimuru agreed. "I think I'll ask Tuya about this." Rimuru and Seal walked to the dining hall, where they met up with Tuya and his wives having breakfast. Tuya asked Rimuru and Seal if they wanted to join them, to which Rimuru gladly accepted. While the group was enjoying a grand breakfast, Rimuru asked, "Hey Tuya, so are you all aware of a creature called the phrases?" This got everyone's attention. Everyone at the table had had extensive interactions with the phrases and had been training diligently to combat them ever since. Tuya explained, "Yes, we have had extensive run-ins with them, and they are quite a threat to this world. According to a scientist named Regina Babylon, more than 5,000 years ago, the phrases came to this world and nearly completely conquered it. Their sole objective was the complete annihilation of everyone. Then suddenly they just vanished, and they have only just recently started resurfacing." Rimuru nodded. I see. Well, me and Seal should be able to help with this." "Help?" Tuya asked. "By going to the world these phrases come from, of course," Rimuru said casually. Rimuru's words left everyone speechless as they thought about the dread of traveling to the homeworld of those creatures. However, Tuya's question shook them out of their shock. "And what do you intend to do by going there?" Tuya asked. Rimuru answered bluntly, "I thought that was obvious. I'll obliterate their world." Everyone in the dining hall could only utter in unison, "You'll destroy their world?" Rimuru laughed. "Aha! Yeah, me and Seal will go. You should come too, Tuya. It will be good experience for you." Everyone had unnerved expressions on their faces after Rimuru just casually declared he would wipe out a planet. Tuya was the only one who could voice his uncomfortable thoughts. "Are you serious about this, Rimuru? About wiping out an entire planet?" "Yeah, why wouldn't I be?" Rimuru replied. "It's not the first planet I've destroyed, and if it's for the betterment of the universe, then I don't see the problem." Tuya countered, "Isn't that a bit much, though? The phrases are certainly a problem, but to wipe them all out feels a bit extreme." Rimuru chuckled. "Ahaha, you're still new to this, but I can assure you, if you don't nip this problem in the bud now, then it could be detrimental to you all later." Tuya thought about it for a while before saying, "I'll come with you, but I have one condition." "Oh, and what would that be?" Rimuru asked. Tuya insisted, "While I agree with you that the phrases are a problem, I ask that you don't wipe them out completely." Rimuru sighed. "Sig, fine. We'll leave a few behind, then." "Thank you, Rimuru," Tuya said. Tuya's wives were extremely worried about him going with Rimuru, but after some assurances from both Tuya and Rimuru, they reluctantly agreed. Rimuru announced, "All right then, Tuya, get what you need. We'll depart in 2 hours." Tuya agreed and left to prepare for what would most likely turn out to be the hardest battle of his lifetime. A couple of hours later, Tuya met Rimuru and Seal in the courtyard, ready to depart. "You ready, Tuya?" Rimuru asked. "Yes, I'm ready," Tuya replied. "All right, let's go. Come close to me, Tuya. I'll teleport us there." After some worried goodbyes from all of Tuya's wives, Rimuru teleported everyone to the Phrases' homeworld. When they arrived, they were met with the sight of a desolate, bleak world, completely uninhabitable for humans. Tuya looked around. "So this is the world of the Phrases. It's completely barren here. Not a single bit of life." Rimuru commented, "It certainly is a shithole. Well, before the carnage begins, I'm going to call some friends." "Friends?" Tuya thought to himself. Rimuru turned around, stuck his hand out, and muttered, "Summoning." Suddenly, 7 magic circles appeared on the ground, and out came 7 beings shrouded in darkness. When the darkness finally dispersed, what could be seen were 7 demons, each with different colored hair. It was all 7 of the primordials. Tuya shuddered at the sight of these beings. His senses were screaming that they were extremely dangerous and that he should run away, until Rimuru's voice broke Tuya out of his fearful thoughts. "Hello, everyone. It's good to see you again," Rimuru smiled. 4 of the demons immediately bowed to Rimuru, with the black-haired one speaking first. Diablo purred, "It's an honor for us to be in your presence again, Lord Rimuru." Testarossa added, "Yes, I agree. It's a pleasure to be called by you, Lord Rimuru." However, not all the demons were happy to be summoned. Guy Crimson said unamusedly, "Teske, you've got some nerve to summon me like a subordinate." Rimuru laughed, "Ahaha. Oh, come on, Guy, admit it. You're happy that I called for you. It's not like you had much going on anyway." Guy crossed his arms. "Tisk, whatever. Anyway, where are we? Why did you summon us?" "Ahaha, always the same," Rimuru chuckled. "Well, I thought you guys could have some fun." The demons all said in unison, "Fun? Yeah, fun," Rimuru said. "Next to me here is a friend of mine, Tuya. The planet he's from is facing an issue of being invaded by creatures called Phrases. So, I decided to help him with his little problem." Guy raised an eyebrow. "Ugh, and what do I get in return for helping you with this errand?" Rimuru grew a devilish smile. "A chance." "A chance at what?" Guy asked. Rimuru stated, "A chance to go all out. I want you to slaughter them. Kill them all until there's only a handful left on this godforsaken planet. Use all the power you want." Guy, as well as all the other primordials, were instantly filled with a massive sense of excitement. Especially Diablo, Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera, who hadn't been ordered by their master in thousands of years. They were now filled with absolute ecstasy. Diablo proudly stated, "As you wish, master. Nothing would please us more than to receive such an order from you." "Good," Rimuru said. But before I call these creatures over, let me first call everyone else. Tuya could only think to himself, he's calling more people. Rimuru stuck his hand out again. Demon summoning. Suddenly, a large rip in space formed, leading into total darkness. All of a sudden, the darkness was filled with thousands of glowing red eyes, and pretty soon, thousands of demons began making their way through the rift. Rimuru had summoned the entire demon army from the cardinal world. Once all the demons came through the rift, they all kneeled before Rimuru, saying in perfect unison, "Our Lord." Rimuru then issued his commands. "I have a task for you all. It's been a while since we had a war, and today is the day for another. I want you all to slaughter the creatures of this world, so fight to your heart's content. These are your commands." All the demons shouted in unison, "As you wish, my lord." Rimuru turned to Seal. "Is it ready?" Seal answered, "Yes, the analysis is complete. Here." Seal handed him a small pendant that contained a frequency emulating the core of the sovereign phrase. This was what these creatures had been searching for all this time, and once the pendant was broken, the phrases would come rushing to their location. Rimuru crushed the pendant. Not long after, the footsteps of millions of phrases could be heard echoing in the distance. Pretty soon, the massive, synchronized stomping of millions of phrases began to shake the very earth they stood on, until finally, the first waves of the crystal monsters came into view. Rimuru yelled out, "Let the war begin! Attack!" With Rimuru's command, the total annihilation began.
Chapter 20. War.
Upon Rimuru's command to begin the war, the primordials all took to the skies and immediately began their barrage of magical attacks. Carrera opened the fight with Gravity Collapse, a magic attack that mixes gravity and nuclear magic into one devastating spell. From Carrera's single attack, thousands of the enemy were obliterated in an instant. An explosion so massive shook not only the battlefield, but the very air itself. The remaining primordials, after witnessing Carrera's opening attack, immediately began to fly over the battlefield, launching powerful magical strikes in all directions. The other demons were all gathered together, acting as a defensive line to lure and pick off any enemies that managed to get past the primordials. Those who held the rank of archdemon or higher were free to move however they wanted, with many choosing to fight on the front lines alongside the primordials, while others stayed behind to reinforce the main army. Rimuru, Seal, and Tuya watched the battle from high above. Tuya could only ask in disbelief, "Rimuru, who are these people? Just one of their attacks could wipe out an entire city in my world." Rimuru smiled. "They are friends from my world, but they are also demons and demon lords." Tuya replied in a worried tone, "Demon lords? Ahaha. Don't worry," Rimuru reassured him. "Most of them serve me. The ones fighting on the front lines are primordial demons, meaning they are the first demons to ever exist and have been alive since the dawn of creation." Tuya stood frozen with a shocked expression on his face after hearing Rimuru's account, realizing just how terrifyingly powerful these demons really were. He could only think to himself, these are Rimuru's friends. However, Tuya's thoughts were cut short when Rimuru interjected, stating, "What are you doing standing around here for? Tuya, you should be down there too." Tuya blinked. "What? You want me to go down there?" "Exactly," Rimuru said. "Although you're a god now, you still lack proper battle experience. And isn't that why you came with us in the first place? So get down there. Don't worry. I'll step in if things start looking dire." Tuya hesitated, a worried expression crossing his face. But after a moment of self-motivation, he steeling his resolve and joined the battle. Tuya began by flying over the battlefield, using a port on all the lower-class phrases, instantly snatching and crushing their cores in his bare hands. While Tuya was beginning his assault, Guy and Diablo were swiftly moving through the enemy ranks, cutting and beating down the opposition effortlessly. Guy's fighting style was rugged and brutal, smashing enemies with his bare fists and launching powerful spiritual magic. Diablo's fighting style was refined but cruel, using his claws to tear through enemies while launching devastating abyssal magic. Carrera was doing what she did best, launching powerful nuclear magic in every direction, leaving nothing but pure destruction in her wake. Testarossa moved elegantly through the battlefield, using her whip to shatter enemies and her white flames to melt them down to nothing. Violet, however, had a fighting style similar to Guy's in terms of sheer force, using her poison magic to dissolve the phrases while using her fists to shatter their bodies, leaving a deadly poisonous mist to fill the air around her. As for Rain and Misery, the two were fighting side by side, with Rain firing powerful ice magic and Misery unleashing devastating earth magic. Rain's ice magic was incredibly potent, weaker than anything Velzard could produce, but still deadly enough to be compared to it, as she froze the enemies solid until they shattered into pieces. Misery's earth magic was a mixture of both earth and dark magic, allowing her to summon small meteorites that left total devastation all around them. As the battle continued to rage on, Tuya began to get more serious. Wielding his famous sword made from the shell of a phrase, he cut and slashed through the horde like a true god of battle. Eventually, drawn by all the commotion, the advanced class phrases finally started to arrive on the battlefield, and their heavy presence immediately caught everyone's attention. The advanced class phrases were completely different from the smaller ones, taking on the massive appearances of crocodiles, dragons, gorillas, snakes, and other predatory beasts. These phrases were much more powerful than the normal types, and the primordials could sense it. They immediately charged forward, eager to take on a more challenging enemy. Diablo and Guy went first, each picking a target. Guy wrapped his fists in a deep red spiritual energy, while Diablo coated his claws in a tiny amount of turn null. The two then made their moves, with Guy delivering a devastating punch to shatter his target, and Diablo executing a swift slash to slice his enemy completely in half. Although their attacks worked perfectly, the advanced class phrases began to regenerate right before their eyes. This immediately caused both Guy and Diablo to smirk. Guy laughed. "Finally, an interesting opponent." Diablo replied, "While I applaud these grotesque creatures for trying, I share your sentiment, Guy." The two then flew back down and engaged in a completely one-sided battle. Guy and Diablo were obviously toying with the advanced class phrases, baiting them to expose their trump cards. All the upper-level phrases could do in response was use their crystal cores to launch powerful laser beams. However, these attacks were easily blocked or avoided by the two powerhouse demons. Growing tired of the game, Diablo and Guy ended the fight by launching some of the most powerful magic they could muster, completely obliterating the advanced class phrases along with the entire surrounding landscape. After witnessing and taking notes on Guy and Diablo's fight, the other primordials engaged in their own battles, easily taking out their targets or playfully toying with them. As the primordials all ended their respective fights, they suddenly sensed the presence of thousands of more advanced class phrases, as well as millions of middle class phrases gathering in the distance. They all took to the skies, meeting up in the air to observe a scene that looked like something straight out of a monster movie, with thousands of advanced class phrases massing on the horizon and millions of middle classes swarming underneath their feet. It was then that Ultima smiled and suggested a game. "Let's see who can kill the most of them." Carrera grinned. "I'm down. Bet I can kill more than you." Ultima laughed. "Ahaha. Dream on, Blondie." Testarossa smiled smoothly. "I also will participate in this game." Rain added, "I guarantee that I can kill more than both of you." Diablo chuckled. "Kafufu. Well, it appears we are being outvoted. Then I shall also participate." Right then, Rimuru appeared behind the group of demons, a smirk on his face. "This seems interesting. I'll endorse this game, but let's add some higher stakes. Whoever wins can ask for one wish from me." Guy's eyes lit up. "Really? Well then, it appears I have no choice but to participate now." The demons, now filled with a completely new sense of vigor and anticipation, turned their gazes back to the prey in front of them and descended furiously upon the battlefield. Rimuru turned his attention back to Tuya, thinking to himself, "Now we just need to get you going, Tuya." Chapter 21. Awakening and Victory. As the battle continued to rage on, the primordials began their game, launching powerful magic and strikes that decimated everything in their path and left nothing but ruin. While the primordials were striking with the fury of demon gods, the other demons were mopping up any enemies that managed to survive the initial barrage. They did so with very little effort. With each demon being a greater demon or above, the phrases stood absolutely no chance against them. However, Tuya was having a bit of trouble keeping up. He was constantly being hounded by middle and advanced class phrases as he tried to push his way toward the front lines. Swarms of crystal monsters surrounded him on all sides. He was doing his best to handle the situation, but he was struggling to match the explosive pace of the primordials. Tuya cut down the middle-class phrases with relative ease by infusing his divine power into his weapon. But it wasn't until he was completely surrounded by a massive wall of advanced class phrases that he truly started to feel overwhelmed. The phrases then synchronized and began an all-out, rapid barrage of powerful laser attacks targeted directly at Tuya. Tuya tried desperately to block the incoming crossfire, but the sheer force left him badly injured, sending him crashing heavily into a large boulder behind him. With his head and parts of his body bleeding heavily, Tuya began to drift in and out of consciousness. As his body began to slump to the ground, Tuya could only think to himself, "Is this as far as I can go? Some god I am. I can barely even deal with a few phrases." Tuya's body hit the dirt. He gripped a handful of soil tightly as his thoughts suddenly became agitated and fierce. "No, this isn't how I'm going to die. I have people waiting for me, and I refuse to die here. I will no longer be a burden to anyone." As Tuya's thoughts swirled with pure motivation and rage, divine energy began to manifest and swirl violently around his body, being absorbed at an extremely fast rate. Suddenly, Tuya's body exploded with bright, golden divine energy, and a massive pillar of light shot straight up into the sky, lighting up the entire world for everyone to see. This immediately caught everyone's attention. The entire battlefield ground to a halt to witness the spectacle. High above, Rimuru turned to Seal and noted, "See? All he needed was a push to get there. And now, finally, he's truly ascended to godhood." The primordials were all left amazed, with Guy stating to no one in particular, "That sly dog. Rimuru must have been aiming for this from the very start." Diablo could only snicker, "Kufufu." All according to Lord Rimuru's plan. As the divine pillar of light subsided, Tuya was left hovering slightly above the ground in his new godly transformation. With long, flowing blonde hair, divine battle armor wrapped tightly around him, and two black horns manifested on top of his head, Tuya had successfully awakened his true godly form. He had ascended to become a brand new god of war. The phrases, sensing the immense divine energy Tuya was now radiating, instantly designated him as a top-class threat and moved to swarm him like mindless machines. Tuya stayed perfectly still until hundreds of thousands of phrases were directly in his vicinity. Then, he unleashed a powerful wave of divine energy that completely pulverized everything in the area. Tuya began to move swiftly through the battlefield at blinding speeds that only the primordials, Rimuru, and Seal could even comprehend, obliterating everything in his path like a hot knife cutting through butter. The primordials watching the scene were highly amused. Guy turned to his fellow demons and stated, "Well, we can't let him hog all the fun." Diablo grinned, "Kufufu. I am in agreement with Guy. Plus, we haven't finished our game yet." The primordials followed Tuya's lead and renewed their assault, launching powerful magic in all directions and decimating their enemies. The rest of the demon army decided to follow suit, pushing up their line of attack and destroying all the small fry like they were nothing. A few hours later, after everyone had given their all, the battlefield was left in absolute ruins, with massive craters plastered in every direction and deadly residual magic radiating from the ground. It was a total victory for Rimuru's forces. Seeing this, Rimuru turned to Seal and stated, "I believe they're finished now. We should go join them." As Rimuru and Seal descended toward the group, the only thing that could be heard was the loud bickering of the primordials, who were trying to determine the official winner of their game. Ultima argued, "Guy, don't give us that look. You didn't win. I clearly killed more than you." Guy laughed, "Ahaha. Dream on, Ultima. You think you did better than me? You couldn't beat me in a million years." Carrera interjected loudly, "Please, both of you stop this useless squabbling, because it's completely clear that I am the winner." Testarossa smiled smoothly, "I wouldn't be so sure of that, Carrera." Diablo added, "Yes, Testarossa is correct. Although your magic is strong and wide-ranged, Carrera, it is at best good for mopping up weak, scattered enemies." Carrera began to get enraged, and nuclear magic started charging in her hands. "Weak? Well, why don't you put that to the test right now, Diablo?" But before the squabble could escalate any further, Rimuru's voice cut through the air, commanding, That's enough, you lot. Carrera immediately retracted her magic and put on a bright smile, acting as if she had absolutely nothing to do with the tension. Rimuru could only sigh at the sight, thinking to himself, geez, I can't leave you guys alone for a minute, can I? The primordials were all desperate to find out the winner of the contest, and Rimuru, knowing this, quickly said, I'll announce the winner in a moment, but before that, Rimuru turned to Tuya, who was still standing in his new godly transformation. Rimuru smiled, Congratulations, Tuya, on awakening your true godly form. Tuya looked at his hands. Yes, thank you, Rimuru. I believe you knew this would happen all along. Well, yes, Rimuru admitted. I sensed it back when we first met. All you needed was a little push. Yes, thank you again, Tuya said, rubbing the back of his neck. I have one question, though. Oh, what would that be? Rimuru asked. Tuya looked at his armor. How do I go back to my normal state? I'm not going to be stuck like this from now on, am I? Rimuru burst out laughing. Ahaha, you still have a bit to learn. Just stop circulating your divine energy. Tuya did exactly as Rimuru instructed, and his divine form dissolved, transforming him back into his normal self. Rimuru explained, if you ever want to go back into that state, all you need to do is circulate your divine— I see, Tuya smiled. You've helped me yet again, Rimuru. Not to worry, Rimuru waved it off. Us otherworlders have got to look out for each other. Rimuru then turned his gaze back to the eager primordials and stated, All right, you lot, I'll announce the winner now. Chapter 22, Rewards. As Rimuru declared he would announce the winner of the contest, the primordials were all gleaming with anticipation to hear the results. Rimuru began, Tied in last place are Misery and Rain. Considering you two fought alongside each other, that is almost to be expected. In fifth place is Ultima. Ultima suddenly pouted and shouted, What? There is no way I'm fifth. Are you sure you didn't miscount, Lord Rimuru? Rimuru replied smoothly, No, Ultima. There was no miscount. I even had Seal take the count, and her analysis is never wrong. Ultima just crossed her arms, murmuring, Stupid game. I wasn't even taking it seriously anyway. Rimuru then continued with the rankings. In fourth place is Testarossa. Testarossa offered a mature, calm response, stating, Well, I suppose that's to be expected, since I didn't use my full strength. In third place is Carrera, Rimuru announced. Carrera had a similar reaction to Ultima, kicking a nearby rock as she grumbled, Damn it! But she quickly turned her attention to the other demonesses, saying in a teasing tone, Well, at least this proves that I'm better than lowly purple over there. Hearing this, Ultima immediately glared at Carrera. Oh? You think because you killed more weaklings that you're better than me? Why don't we test that theory right now? Ultima began to charge her poison magic in her hands, and Carrera responded in a cocky, menacing tone. You want to go, Ultima? Carrera followed suit, charging nuclear magic in her hands as well. But before the two could spark a massive fight, Rimuru stopped them with a stern, Settle down, you two. The two demonesses immediately retracted their magic, turning away from each other as they pouted, both making a mental note to finish this argument later. Rimuru could only sigh, thinking to himself, I swear, these two are always giving me headaches. Rimuru then continued to announce the final slots. Right? Now, in a very close second place, just behind first, is Guy, making Diablo the official victor. The demons all applauded Diablo's victory. After the noise quieted down, Rimuru asked, So, Diablo, what would you like? I will grant you one wish, just as promised. Diablo bowed deeply. My wish is simple, Lord Rimuru. I would only like to accompany you and Lady Seal on your journey. Rimuru nodded. Very well, but I have one condition. I will agree to anything you wish, Lord Rimuru, Diablo answered instantly. Rimuru stated, All right, I will summon you when needed, and you must strictly follow my commands when summoned. Diablo smiled. I will always abide by your commands, Lord Rimuru. Very well then. Now, Rimuru turned his attention to the entire demon army gathered on the plains. He announced loudly, You have all done marvelously today, and as a reward, I will grant you all more power. All the thousands of demons kneeled before Rimuru, responding in perfect unison. "We are humbled by your praise, my lord." Rimuru stuck his hand out, and a massive, dark sphere enveloped the group of demons, forcing each one to evolve to the next stage of existence. The greater demons became archdemons, the archdemons became demon peers, and the demon peers who served as close subordinates to the primordials awakened fully into powerful devil lords. After their evolutions completed, the demons, feeling the immense newfound strength they had acquired, bowed deeply to Rimuru once more. "We thank our lord for this great honor you have granted us." Rimuru then turned his attention back to the primordials. "I know I said I would only grant a wish to the winner of the contest, but since you all have done so well, I'm willing to grant the rest of you a reward as well." Rimuru looked toward Rain and Misery, but both of them spoke up in unison. "There is no need for a reward," Misery explained. "It was rewarding enough just to be able to fight alongside everyone." Rain nodded silently, agreeing completely with Misery's statement. Rimuru insisted, "No, this is my decision, and I wish to reward you." Rain thought for a moment. "Then, perhaps we could learn some new culinary dishes from Lady Shuna?" Rimuru smiled. "Well then, permission granted. I'll let Shuna know you'll be coming by." Rimuru then turned his gaze to Guy. "Guy, what would you like?" Guy smirked. "Since you summoned me like a subordinate, I feel that only an ample reward will suffice." Diablo, Ultima, Testarossa, and Carrera were all highly annoyed by Guy's audacious attitude, but they were snapped out of their thoughts when the sound of Rimuru's laughter echoed out. "Ahaha! All right, Guy," Rimuru laughed. "For summoning you, how about I evolve your ultimate skill?" Guy's eyes widened slightly. "Very well, that will suffice." Rimuru stuck out his hand, and in the next moment, the voice of the world announced directly to Guy. Command received. Evolution of the individual Guy Crimson's ultimate skill, Prideful King Lucifer, into the ultimate. Guy could immediately feel the immense, overwhelming power of his new skill. Not much had fundamentally changed. He retained all of his previous sub-skills, but now the limiter on his copy sub-skill was completely gone. While he could still only copy one skill at a time, he could now copy any other ultimate skill with 100% efficiency, making it possible for Guy to hold the power of two ultimate skills at once. This officially put his power scale on par with the true dragons. Rimuru then turned his gaze to the demoness trio. "What would you three like?" The three demonesses all bowed, stating in perfect unison, "My lord, we would like the same reward as Diablo." Testarossa smiled. "It is also our deepest wish to accompany you and Lady Seal on your journey." Rimuru agreed. "Very well, but you will be bound by the exact same conditions as him." The demonesses all nodded eagerly, completely overjoyed by the outcome. Now that the rewards were fully dished out, Rimuru began sending the demon army back home by opening a massive spatial portal for them. After that was completed, Rimuru sent Guy, Rain, and Misery back to their icy continent. Rimuru then turned to Tuya. "Hey Tuya, before we head back, I have a gift for you." Tuya looked surprised. "A gift? For me?" "Yeah," Rimuru said. He reached into his space and summoned a beautiful golden katana that vibrated and radiated pure divine energy. Tuya was completely amazed by the blade. He could sense the sword's immense power and was entirely enchanted by its design. The only word he managed to utter was, "Amazing." Rimuru smiled. "Ahaha, thank you. I made this specifically for you. It's a Genesis-grade weapon, the absolute highest tier of weaponry. Once you pour your divine power into it, it will formally recognize you as its master." Tuya held his breath. "I don't know what to say to you, Rimuru, other than it's beautiful, and thank you."
Ajaja, no worries. Touya.
"I'm just looking out for a fellow otherworlder." Tuya took the hilt of the sword in his hand and began to imbue his golden divine power into it. The weapon glowed with a brilliant, blinding light, signaling that the blade had recognized Tuya as its true master. Rimuru clapped his hands together. "Good. Well, we should be getting back. I'm sure everyone at the castle is worried sick about you." Tuya agreed. He stepped close to Rimuru and his group, and Rimuru activated his magic, teleporting everyone back to Tuya's home world. Chapter 23. Celebration and Departure. Back in Tuya's world, just moments before Tuya had officially ascended to the title of God of War, All of his wives were sitting around in the courtyard, completely worried as they waited for him to come home. Yamina sighed. They've been gone for a full day now. I hope Tuya is all right. Because time worked differently between the world of the phrases and their home world, a full day had passed for the girls, whereas only half a day had passed for Rimuru and Tuya. Els added in a worried tone, Yeah, I hope he comes back soon. All of the girls felt the exact same heavy weight, and worried expressions clouded their faces. Hildegard, seeing the dropping morale, tried to lift everyone's mood. Don't worry, ladies. As Tuya's wives, we have to remain optimistic. I mean, this is Tuya we're talking about. I'm sure he's perfectly fine. Ye nodded. Yeah, what Hilda says is true. Tuya is the strongest person we know. I'm sure he's fine. As Tuya's wives were talking, the other gods who made up Tuya's adoptive family joined the girls in the courtyard, followed closely by Tuya's personal summons, the 4 heavenly beasts. Kahaku stated proudly, Not to worry, everyone. While your devotion is admirable, our master is incredibly strong and won't be bested by some mere phrases. Luli added, Plus, our spiritual connection with Tuya is still completely intact, which means he is perfectly fine. Hearing this, the girls felt a wave of relief. While Hilda and Ye were putting on a brave face, they too were extremely anxious. However, Karen couldn't help herself. Sensing the pure affection the girls had, and being the goddess of love, she gleefully chimed in. Oh, you girls are just too adorable worrying about Tuya this much. Not to worry, though. The one Tuya is currently with will protect him if anything happens. Takaru, the god of combat, who was posing as Tuya's uncle, interjected confidently. Since Tuya has the Supreme One's protection, that easily makes Tuya the safest person in the universe. Right then, however, the gods all froze. They felt a massive shift in the cosmos. Tuya had officially ascended to the title of God of War, and the gods all stared blankly up into space. The girls were slightly alarmed by their sudden reaction. Yamina asked anxiously, What's wrong? What happened? Moroha, the god of swords, answered solemnly, It appears we have a brand new god among us. The girls didn't know what to make of this cryptic statement. Sensing their confusion, Karen answered with a smile. What Moroha means is that Tuya has truly awakened and ascended. The girls were absolutely amazed to hear this, but at the same time, they felt complex emotions, not fully knowing what this massive change meant for Tuya's future. A few hours later, it was now midday, and everyone was patiently waiting in the courtyard for Tuya's arrival. Suddenly, a dimensional portal opened up in the center of the courtyard, and Tuya walked right through. Seeing Tuya safely home, the girls were overjoyed and rushed forward to hug him, each expressing how terribly they had missed him. Tuya hugged each of them back, comforting them warmly. The gods also stepped forward, congratulating him on his successful ascension. However, the gods suddenly sensed the terrifying aura of 4 incredibly dangerous individuals stepping out behind him, and they silently readied themselves to fight. The primordials walked through the portal, which immediately put everyone on high alert. Takaru narrowed his eyes. What are demons doing here? Takaru's words surprised all of Tuya's wives. Their attention had been solely on Tuya, so they hadn't even noticed the newcomers. The gods and Tuya's wives all took up battle stances, but they were quickly stopped by Tuya, who waved his hands frantically. Whoa, calm down, everyone, Tuya shouted. These are Rimuru's friends. Rimuru then walked through the portal alongside Seal, looking at everyone standing in defensive stances in front of the primordials. Rimuru laughed. Ahaha, everyone please relax. These 4 serve me. This immediately put everyone at ease. Rimuru then introduced his companions. Everyone, this is Diablo, Testarossa, Carrera, and Ultima. Like I said, these 4 serve me, and all 4 of them are primordial demons. The gods all wore completely shocked expressions, while Tuya's wives were just confused, asking in unison, Primordial demons? Tuya started to laugh. Ahaha, I know. I had the exact same expression as all of you. Rimuru, could you explain it to them? Rimuru nodded. Yeah, okay. Primordial demons are the first demons to ever exist, and they have been around since the dawn of creation. Actually, in fact, calling them demons is a bit underhanded. They are all officially demon lords. All of Tuya's wives let out a loud gasp, saying in unison, "Demon lords?" Rimuru smiled. "Ahaha. Like I said, none of you have to worry. Although they are technically demons, they are all exceptionally well-mannered and serve me faithfully. All of you have absolutely nothing to fear." With that, everyone was finally at ease. The girls immediately began questioning Tuya about his ascension to godhood, and Tuya happily showed them his brand new transformation and his golden katana. The girls were amazed by his new look. Moroha, the god of swords, was completely infatuated with Tuya's new weapon and reached out to hold it, but Rimuru stopped her. "I wouldn't do that," Rimuru warned gently. "Genesis-grade weapons have strong wills of their own. I made this weapon specifically for Tuya, and the blade will only recognize him as its wielder. Anyone else trying to pick it up will receive a severe magical backlash." Moroha understood completely and pulled her hand back. After everything was settled, Tuya boldly declared that tonight would be a massive celebration to mark the permanent end of the phrase threat, and everyone happily agreed. That night, a grand barbecue cookout was held on the palace balcony, overlooking the entire beautiful kingdom of Brunhild. When the food was ready, Tuya made a heartfelt speech, thanking Rimuru, Seal, and the primordials for their invaluable help in quelling the phrases that had plagued their world for so long. Everyone then enjoyed the feast, with drinks going around and loud laughter filling the night air. The following morning, Rimuru and Seal got ready to depart. When Rimuru opened the door to their room, all four of the primordials were waiting patiently in the hallway. They all bowed deeply and greeted them. Rimuru noted, "Morning, you four. I quickly wanted to say, before we join Tuya and his family, that when we leave today, I want the four of you to return to the cardinal world. I will summon you when I am in need of your strength." All four of them nodded and replied in perfect unison, "As you wish, Rimuru-sama." Rimuru then took Seal's hand, and the group walked down to the dining hall to join Tuya and his family for breakfast. Once there, everyone exchanged warm morning greetings. Rimuru and Seal sat down with the family while the primordials stood respectfully behind their chairs. While eating, Rimuru announced, "We will be departing today." Tuya looked a little disappointed. "Really? You can't stay for a little while longer?" Although their time together was short, Tuya truly considered Rimuru a close friend, especially since they shared such similar otherworlder backgrounds.
Rimuru smiled. "No, unfortunately.
This isn't the only universe I rule over. But don't worry, Tuya, we will definitely see each other again. Me and Seal will be more than happy to come back and visit." Tuya smiled in relief. "You're right. Me and my family will be more than happy to welcome you whenever that time comes." After an enjoyable breakfast, everyone gathered in the courtyard to see Rimuru and his group off. Tuya thanked Rimuru, Seal, and the primordials once more for everything they had done for his kingdom. Rimuru happily told Tuya not to mention it, thanking him in return for being so incredibly hospitable toward them. The primordials then teleported back to the cardinal world. Rimuru and Seal opened a massive dimensional portal, turned, and waved a final goodbye to everyone before stepping through, continuing their grand journey across the multiverse.